I hope you enjoyed some nice coffee and had some great discussions. We've already seen quite a few examples coming into the Menti tool. Amazing, well done, and keep them coming throughout the day. Now it is time to kick off our next session, and there's going to be quite a lot of panel discussions coming up now. And we have a great honor to meet some very interesting people. And first up is the politicians. What roles does politics plays when it comes to food loss and waste, and is there more to be done? Well, let's find out. Join me, please, here on the tables. I will introduce back again Jacob Jensen, Denmark's Minister for Food and Agriculture and Fisheries, and he will be joined by Anja Bakken Riise, Executive Director Framtiden i våre hender, och Staffan Eklöf, Vice Chairman of the Nordic Council Committee for a Sustainable Nordic Region. Give them a hand. Hi.
Hi.
Nice to have you here with me. So we're going to talk a bit about the politics and the politicians' role. And I'm going to start with you, Jacob. What do you see from your perspective in the politics? The current work that is being done on the food loss and waste, how can we make it more efficient?
Well, first of all, a session like this, we can share these experiences, because I think, at least in the Nordic countries, we can learn a lot from each other. I have already seen some examples. I was told the other day a good example from Oslo, for instance, and I was actually in the Danish news about that. Could we work with this in Denmark as well? I think also to acknowledge the problem from the political sides, that is also, to me at least, a key that if we don't talk about the problem or the possibilities here, then there will be no solutions to it. And then I think also from my perspective, as I mentioned in my introduction, that the rules should not be in the way. I don't know if my mic is something.
Yeah, it's
Are we too close? Perhaps, I don't know.
Maybe we're too close. Maybe we should stand over here. Is that what it is?
I think we have some legislation that sometimes is in the way from all these very good and nice initiatives, but they still bang their heads against the rules. So from the political side of view, that we have to put up the regulatory framework in a way that it's not going to stop it, but it's going to develop the possibilities, as I see it.
And when you say that, like, who do you say has the responsibility to do that work?
Well, the regulatory framework, that's obviously the politicians, including myself. But the good ideas and sharing the experiences, well, that is all these brilliant guys and girls and everybody else working with these topics among in the NGOs and everywhere else. I don't see that as a responsibility from the politician side as a whole. That is something that should come from bottom up, as I see it. But I will very much like to work with this, and also to make the framework, and also, of course, to give it some attention. So we have to tell the public, not all in, well, now Selina, she mentioned 94% of the public in Denmark, they are aware of this. But I still think in a daily life, it's not something that, well, we are very busy, everybody, and then I have something here, I can just throw it away. Talk about the problem and also show them how to deal with it.
Thank you for this. I'm going to turn to Staffan Eklöf. You are here as a vice chairman for the Nordic Council Committee. So I know that you also have a background from the primary production. We spoke about that when we talked the last time. Well, from your position, what do you see needed in order to lower food loss and waste?
Yeah, first I want to say that everyone in the committee are very happy for this conference, and one of the roles of a politician is to listen, and I think we can learn a lot from this conference. But another thing that's very important that lies primarily on us politicians is to try to find the full picture, to see the full picture, to see that one action in one end doesn't end up in a loss in another end, and to see to that all parts of the agriculture system function. in order to carry up the agriculture to a better position. That includes detailed things like plant breeding livestock for higher health, better health and higher productivity, and accessibility of plant protection products, and a lot of small details. We must keep our eyes on this. And in this perspective, it's also important, I think, that agriculture has a reasonable profitability. We have a problem in Sweden where profitability in the agricultural sector has been low for many years. And that means that is bad for food loss. We have there is underfinancing of investments. There is, for example, too little work made on drainage, and you get food loss from that.
Anja, you represent Framtiden i våre hender, which is the biggest environmental agency in Norway. 45,000 people you have behind you. How do you see, like, what is your dialogue with a politician? Is it enough?
I mean, we have a lot of dialogue with politicians from across the board, and we see a lot of engagement. But it's also kind of frustrating because we very soon become anecdotal. Like, everyone has a story to tell about their grandmother, which is nice. I also talk about my grandmother and my grandfather, not the least, often when we talk about this. But let's be honest, we need policy. You know, we talk about making food waste becoming socially unacceptable, and I agree with that. But when you compare it with this notion of smoking inside, that none of us do, you know, we kind of frown upon it. Who would do that? And smoke in front of your children, who would do that? But what made that change? What made that change? It was laws. It was regulation. That's what we need now as well. And you know, every politician I talk to, they all agree that, you know, we don't want to waste food. But let's be honest, someone today is making money on food waste. Put a price on food waste, and we're not going to do it anymore. Yeah, sure. In Norway, we say that that food waste has a cost of about 20 billion Norwegian kroners, and we attribute about 6 billion to consumers. You know, the value of the food that goes to waste at the consumer level, it has a value of about 6 billion Norwegian kroners. Okay, and then we're going to halve food waste by 2030. That means 3 billion Norwegian kroners, probably as a loss to the supermarkets, because they can't, you know, it's a simplification, but still, that's about 3 billion kroners of value that they are not going to sell to people because people are going to reduce their food waste. So I believe that one of the key aspects that we need to look into is, you know, because we've worked on this for quite some time in Norway, and we have put in place initiatives. You know, we have a volunteer business agreement where you work on a lot of actions, and they are working. We see they are working, but not sufficiently, not enough. And I believe that until we address this issue, that today someone is making a profit of throwing away food, then we're not going to get the change that we need. So I mean that we need to look into what kind of laws and regulations, and specifically in Norway, we're working on a food waste ban that I think is going to be crucial.
So the food waste ban, yes, please.
Could I ask you a question?
Of course.
That's your job.
No,
Sorry
go
that.
ahead. I'm just going to sit down here for a bit, yeah?
Because it's... Oh, watch out.
What a drama,
it is,
this panel.
It is, and it's very interesting what you're saying here, that you say, well, we need regulation. And to a certain extent, I agree, but it depends what kind of regulation are we talking
Definitely.
about. Because I don't see this as one size fits all.
No, not at all.
And so we have to be very precise what we're talking about when we talk about regulation, so we don't say, well, it has to be like this, and if it's not within this framework, it can't happen. That is not at least how I see it. So I don't know.
Sure.
You should elaborate on that. And don't you also see that, well, we have a consumer demand? We're politicians, and I represent, in my case, the Danes in some respect, in my government. And if the Danes and thereby the consumers, they ask for this. I mean, then
they ask
of course
for what?
They ask for that. Well, for instance, that now we were just talking in the coffee break. The croissants, they're this big. They look beautiful, but you can only eat half of it. I mean, so if the demands for small croissants, for example, well, isn't that something that, well, that is up to the producers also to produce if they are consumers, they actually ask for it? Isn't it always that we have to have regulations to say, you have to do it like this, otherwise we will give you a ban? I mean, do you see the dilemma?
Definitely. And we're talking about fresh food often, you know, especially in Norway in supermarkets, what we throw away the most is fresh foods. It's fresh baked bread and sweet stuff, and also fruits and veggies. So yes, there's always going to be some waste. What we see in Norway, we've asked, because I believe that this is an intrinsic part of the business model of quite a few businesses, that we need abundancy. You see it in supermarkets, you see it in cafes, in gas stations, that they put on the oven and they bake the bread until closing hours to have abundancy, so that they will draw you in. And of course, consumers have gotten used to that. We've gotten used to it always being abundancy. But if you actually engage in a dialogue with consumers, what we see is there's been consumer surveys in Norway where we see that 83% of consumers say that it's okay with them not to have freshly baked bread when it comes to closing hours. And if you say to the consumer that actually bread is what we throw away the most at supermarkets, then more than 90% agree that they don't really need to have fresh bread when it comes to closing hours. So it's kind of a push and pull. You know, who has gotten the consumer used to this idea of abundancy all the time? And how do you engage in a dialogue to say, guys, we need to really reduce. This is a huge issue. You know, let's play ball. People will actually be on board on that. But when it comes to solutions, you're absolutely right. There's no one size fits all. What we are proposing in Norway, when I say we, it's my organization, Framtiden, våre hender, the future in our hands. And now it's become a working group. The government has put in place a kind of a task force, like you mentioned earlier. And what we've proposed is basically something like an extended producer responsibility. First and foremost, a law that actually says that this goal that Norway has committed to, halving food waste by 2030, that is actually to become law. And the main purpose of the law is to prevent food waste from happening.
In the whole
chain, from the farmer to the consumer's table, in the whole chain. And a key aspect here is not, like you were talking about, not just shifting or moving food waste from one place to another. So you have to look at the whole chain, definitely. And what we want to be a part of this law is an extended producer responsibility. And for those of you who know this, you know that it means that as a producer, if you put something on the market, you are responsible for it. So if that ends up as waste somehow, you need to be in charge of dealing with it and financing it. And what we want is a system of financing. So we don't want the French law, we don't want that. But we want a system of financing, so you will be financing the distribution of surplus food if that comes to play, so that goes out to charities. And today in Norway, charities, Matsentral, they actually have to pay to pick up the food that they're getting, the surplus food, and to pay and to further it out. So we need to change that. We also want information to the consumer to be a part of this law. It's a crucial aspect. Consumer behavior is a crucial aspect. But also, financing of distribution, and actually a possibility of sanctions for those companies who over time do not reduce their food waste sufficiently.
Thank you for this. Yeah, I hear the applause. Staffan, we talked about a little bit. Please comment on this, and we also, I want to throw that in. You said about no, we don't want the French law, but do we want the food waste ban? Like we talked about it just prior to this. Please comment on Anja's and.
We're dealing in our committee. We're dealing with several sustainability problems, and this is one which has a unique character that is very good. Because there is a potential synergy, very great synergies, and this means that it's needed to well, central to success is cooperation, and that has already started. And I also think that a certain degree of flexibility is crucial. We see today many actors, they find different solutions to problems, and that is what we need. So a ban, I think, could induce flexibility, reduced flexibility that could get to result in effects in another end. That's my thinking.
I also have, I'm very keen, I don't know about we have to be careful here about talking about the French law with the princes in the... I can do that, okay, fair enough. But I'm keen to learn more about, I know also Finland is working with this now. To be honest, I'm not there where I say, well, we'll start with the ban, because, for instance, can't remember who was it who said, well, we're not smoking anymore indoors. It's not something, well, was it Selina, I think it was? Mm-hmm. We're not smoking indoors, but it's still not a ban. It's something that we have just talked about, and then those places where we'll say, we don't want it, and then people, they step outside. It's still allowed to smoke, but it's still
just
something...
in the Danish bodega.
Yeah, I know. Also here we have some differences. My point being, I think that if you have to put up, well, seen from a politician point of view and a regulatory point of view, to put up the framework, to push it forward, to acknowledge the problem, to support also these different organizations working with this. And I've learned that there are lots of rules that they are banging against. Since, I mean, for instance, one example is, in Denmark, when you have, for instance, fresh fruits, it's been produced as, well, what do you call it? Organic. Yeah, organic. That was the word. Organic. When you put that into the organization, well, they put it out to people that are in need of it, they cannot tell them that it's produced organic. They have to put some label on top of this. Just a small example. And why is that? I mean, why is that we have to put up regulation that is actually pushing it back? We have to pull it forward, as I see it. So regulatory frameworks, very good, but bans, let's work with that.
Can I ask, have you ever gone dumpster diving?
I can't admit I have.
I know my friend Matt, who lives in Urban Harvester, who lives in Denmark. I'm sure he can take you.
Sure.
The thing is,
I look forward to Matt.
The thing is,
we are recording this. You know that, right? Yes, just so
we'll keep you to it. The thing is, I hadn't either. Like, I'd read all the reports on food waste, and you hear the numbers. In Norway, we throw away 450,000 tons of food waste. Like, it's incredible, and you hear these numbers. But when you actually go digging in the dumpsters, it's a whole new experience. And one of them for me was we went to have a look. I went with this big Norwegian influencer. She's a big food influencer in Norway, and we went to a bakery after hours. And it was strange. We got into the waste, the dumpsters, and basically often you can't get in because they're locked away, but this one was luckily for us open. And then you get in there and you smell the fresh bread. You're among dumpsters, but it smells delicious. And you open up, and it's like, there's so much of it. And we lift it out. Actually, you have to, this is a trick when you go dumpster diving, you give it a little nudge to tip it over, because it's kind of heavy, and pull out this big bag. And we had about 10 kgs of bakely fresh goods. And this was like sourdough bread and cinnamon buns, and it's just delicious. And this was about 10 kgs, and we were like, wow, it's so much. And then we see, oh, there's another one under, and there's another one, and another one. So this was just today's waste of 10 kgs. And then underneath, you have another one of 10 kgs and 10 kgs. And then you understand it's systemic. They're kind of gambling because they know that to get us in, they have to have a lot of freshly baked goods. And so they put it on display to get us in. And then they know they're going to have to throw away stuff at the end of the day. But it's so cheap for them, so they'll do it anyway. So I'm not, there's a lot of different measures that we can put in place, but until we actually make it hurt a bit more to throw away food, I don't think we're going to fix this problem.
I do know that there is quite a few food retailers in this audience, and we have microphones. So if anyone want to give a little comment on this, well, can we get a microphone? Here we go. And if we can just pass that across, that would be amazing. Thank you very much. Perfect. And please say your name and who you are, and then your comment.
I'm Fredrik Wikström. I'm doing research in food waste for...
We'll take this question first, and then we'll take the next one in the back. So, please go ahead.
Research for 20 years now about food waste, but I'm so happy to hear this discussion because this is the first time we say the conflict. We have two goals in the system. One is sustainability, and one is profit. And what we've seen in our research, there are a number of win-win solutions, and we can see that reduce food waste in retail, for example, could be a win-win.
I'm going to get you to put the microphone closer.
We have goal conflicts where the sustainability is versus the profit. And what we've seen, the profit wins all the time. So I don't discuss the solutions, but we must acknowledge that there is a conflict there.
Thank you.
Thank
More
you.
of a comment.
Thank you. I think it was Per Christian there. Yeah?
Yes, that's true.
Yeah?
Per Christian from the Norwegian Food Bank. I would like to comment just on what Mr. Jensen said in the beginning, that the politicians can do something about the legislations. And you are discussing whether it should pay to throw food. The reality today, it's often pays. You don't have any cost on throwing food, but it pays to donate food. A very important thing that all politicians and all countries could do is to remove tax from donations of food. We have done that in Norway, and that was a game changer for us. After that, we got much more donations that we could use for people in insecure situations. And also other kind of taxes, like we had the sugar fee that was paid. We had like one question in the parliament, and it was removed like that. So it is important that the politicians is on what kind of legislations that is there, and I'm sure that you will find someone if you look at it.
Thank you very much for the comment. I think, Matt, have you gotten a microphone? Can we pass it either back or forward or wherever it's going? Perfect, and then we have Siri after this. So Matt first.
Just, Anja, I've been following your work for years. So I just want to talk about market power a little bit. So from what I understand, in Norway, 3 companies control 98% of the market. So when your NGO pushes for a food waste law of a kind, in your experience, how big an issue is the industry, the lobbyists, to actually formulating proper legislation and not just watered down legislation?
I think that's
what we're going straight there.
Yeah, we are going straight there, basically. So, yeah. fancy answering.
Let's take that after. No, it's not even a question. I mean, they have huge powers, and I believe that has been one of the reasons, like in Norwegian Parliament, since I think the first ruling was in 2016 or 2017, looking into, or in the Parliament was asking government to introduce or to look into a food waste ban, and basically. Not much has happened since, and I believe that one of the main reasons is because the big chains, they have so much power and they are completely against it. And I believe that is due to the fact that they're going to be, it's going to be costly for them because it does involve changing their business model from today, where you know it's this abundancy strategy to. We need more of a sufficiency approach, you know, selling the right amount of foods to people, and that is going to cost money. So I believe it's a huge issue. Now we have a government in Norway who have said in their ruling platform that they will introduce a food waste ban. I still don't quite believe it until it happens, but of course we have to make them accountable. But I'm hoping to see businesses and especially the big chains to be a positive part in this work. And now, especially with the government who are saying it will come into place, they should.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, I'm going to go Staffan first, and then, yeah.
I don't exclude that there may be regulations to help on this side, but I think we should be careful. We have heard some ideas, maybe tax cuts on donations, and there may be other good ideas to maybe pick up. But I would like to stress we should not take easy on the power of free will. You are here because of free will, and what is done today already is done on free will, and it has been done a lot. And we have a very good example from Sweden. It's when it comes to nutrient leakage from fields. Sweden has had voluntary regimes, and we have already done what the European Union is telling us to do now. We have cut 50% of the nutrient leakage to the seas, and that is based on voluntary. And do not forget, the Nordic Council is based fully on voluntary. There is and has come further than the European Union in many areas. So the free will is a great power.
I'm going to go.
Yeah, actually, I actually fully agree on that. We have also some of the biggest supermarket chains in Denmark. They have, as I mentioned in my beginning, in my introduction, they have voluntarily, they measure their food waste, and what gets measured gets managed. And that is part of their CSR strategy and policy. And they put it out, and everybody, they can see what they're doing and the results and what will be bringing in the future, what kind of new technologies will they introduce, and so on and so forth. And I think also just to comment on the first two questions or comments, and I think they're linked together to a certain extent. Profit wins was one of the issues, and somebody up there he said you have to pay to donate. We have to create a framework where it actually will be good business all the way through the whole chain. Because if you have to pay to do something good, well, there's a tendency that you will not do it then. So I think, and we're talking about taxation, we're talking about legislation in general, and also the CSR, and then that brings me back to the demands from the consumers. If they can see, well, this supermarket, they're doing something good, and I will go in there and do my grocery stuff instead of going over to the neighbor who's not doing the good things. I think to put that forward and to put that pressure on from the demander's point of view, I think that will be one of the ways forward, as I see it.
I'll let you comment a little bit. We have 2-3 more questions before we wrap this up.
I'll be
Yeah.
shorter now.
Great.
I completely agree with Per Christian from the Food Banks of Norway saying about changing the not having to pay to donate. Still, we need to keep in mind this. I see this quite often when we're working on moves towards more circular economy, that instead of talking about prevention, we talk about how to deal with surplus or how to deal with waste. And of course, we need that too. It's also important. But how do we, where are the measures to actually work on prevention? And that's why we also, we are so keen on a law that actually makes it, that actually, holds responsible all businesses to work actively on prevention.
I will. We have a question here from Silje, who had a presentation for us yesterday around legislation. So please.
Hello, I'm Adén from Finland, from Ministry of Environment, and I'm working with producer responsibility. So I'm very interested. How do you say that this is the answer? But who is the responsible of the food chain? Who should pay the waste? Because waste management? Because if the farmer is, or is it the retailer? It can be both. Can be both. So, what's your opinion?
It's a very good question, and it's also part of the sharing of the responsibility. This is part of the work that needs to be done. We need to do further work on, And it's also, coming back to the question from Matt, who has the power in the value chain. And so if a supermarket tells the farmer, no, we don't want your crooked carrots or whatever, then it can't be up to the farmer if that somehow ends up as waste. So they're important, how do you say, the gray lines. We need to look at all those nuances in between there, definitely. But I must say, we've had one of the foremost experts on both lawmaking in Norway and extended producer responsibility, working on how to put in place this law, how it can actually be detailed out. For now, we have it in Norway, but in Norwegian. But what I'm thinking is that we actually need to translate it and to get it out. So please contact me afterwards, and I'll be very happy to give you details.
I know we have several people wanting to ask questions. I'm going to take the first two, and the other ones you're going to have to just catch them in the break. And I have Karin, and I have Carl. So, Karin?
Hör ni mig? Ja. Karin Bilsten heter jag, på engelska.
Yes.
My name is Karin Bilsten, and I work at Axfood. We have Willys and Hemköp. And I've been working with food waste for about 10 years. And we had the goal to halve our food waste from 2015 till 25, and we are on the way. But still, it's a lot in tons and kilo that we throw away. And what we do, we lower the price, and what we can't sell, we donate as much as we can. But still, I feel so ashamed when I, in Facebook, follow Dumströms Lyx med Andreas and see how much he can find in containers, and I recognize our own brand. What I think now is going to happen 1st of January next year, the new EU regulation comes that we have to separate the organic food from the cans. I think that's going to mean a lot to lower the food waste in our stores, and I welcome it. But I think we're going to sell out more, and we're going to donate more. So that's one of the regulation I think should, mean a lot. And another thing, maybe
I'm going to have to speed up a little bit, please. Thank you.
What does it cost to throw away garbage today? Maybe we should look at this thing. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Karin. And Carl, for the final question or comment.
Yeah, exactly. I know I'm going to get my chance later on, but I needed to comment on this. Because legislation, so I'm Kalle or Carl from Mat Smart, and we buy surplus food and we sell it to private households. What we very much notice is that the producers have still very much the option of either sell it or donate it or throw it away. And I think that doesn't really make sense. Because, if they can still have the option to choose between these, they will always do the cheapest way out. And very many times it will be to throw it away. And I love the thing you said about the free will. But, we need a bit of help. I think very much, commercial powers can do a lot of the trick. But also we need the power of legislation to actually support that. Otherwise, we won't be able to change anything and move these big numbers. Yeah.
Great remarks and great comment and great comments from you as well, of course. We have to now close this panel. I think you could have just stayed on and you would have just been fired questions. So a big thank you to the Mr. Jakob Jensen, Anja, and Staffan. Thank you so much for your contribution. Right, moving swiftly ahead. Now we are going to speak about restaurants and public meals in schools. And I think I'm going to take a seat now and be joined by three eminent people and press on. And please welcome on stage Filip Lundin, founder of Sopköket, Annika Skogvik, Sustainability Manager for Compass Group, and Anna Löfgren Adén, Environmental Strategist Food Waste for Härryda Municipality. There you are with a microphone there. Thank you very much. Hi. Perfect. You can sit down there. Perfect.
Like this?
Yes, this is great.
Okay, great.
Perfect. Yeah. Hi, are you well? Yes. Great. Perfect. So we're going to, you are all in somewhat way a bit different, but you're in the restaurant industry and you also are working with in schools and other areas where there is food served. So we're going to speak a little bit about your work and the challenges and the solutions that you have come up with. I'm going to start with you, Filip. We have known each other for several years, and you've always struck me as a very creative entrepreneur, and you do a lot for working against food waste. So tell us a little bit. Well, thank you. Let's have a little bit of a love going on now here. That's great. So you work a lot with different types of sustainability goals, not just food waste. So tell us a little bit about what you do.
Yeah, we take a complete grip around resource waste. We serve delicious catering on rescued ingredients, 1 ton every week from supermarkets, Annika and Coop store at Södermalm, also Fabrik. Just from these 2 supermarkets and bakeries, 1 ton per week. So you realize how much food waste we rescue. And based mostly as a catering company, and then we also donate around 2,000 meals per month to people in need, and we also employ half our team full-time employed from marginalized groups in society that we also help with integration into Swedish society, so they get space for learning Swedish during working hours. And a lot of other circular economy things going on connected to all resources that we touch upon in our day-to-day business. Yeah.
Thank you. I'll turn to Annika. Annika should have been another person, but he fell ill, so she jumped in like.
So I'm Krista Dahl today.
Yeah, so she's Krista Dahl. So that you did amazing to come in on a very short minute. Thank you for that.
I got the question this morning.
Yeah,
okay.
Pretty much. So, Annika, you are representing Compass Group, Sweden, and you are actually in 45 countries, and you are almost the world's. Krista told me you are the world's 2nd largest employer, which is crazy. I didn't know that. How do you work internally? Obviously, you have so many units. Like, how do you inspire each other?
Yeah, so of course we have an overall goal that we head for. And I would put it like this. We plan, care, and share. So first of all, we need to have the ability to make good forecasts in order to purchase the right amount of food. And of course, in order to prepare the right number of meals. And that's not easy. And during the preparation, we really care and respect this food and the product we use in order to make our fantastic dishes, of course. So, such as make use of the whole vegetables and so on. And especially now with this inflation in mind, right? And then we share. We share best practice within Compass Group Sweden, and of course within our Compass Group world. And this is so great with this collaboration between the countries. And another very important thing to share is data. Data regarding food waste, of course. And we do that both internally, of course, but also with our clients and guests.
That's very inspiring to hear. We're going to come back to you. I'm going to turn to Anna here on my left. So, Anna, you work in one of the municipalities on more on the west side than in Stockholm, right? And I know that Gothenburg has developed a method for working with sustainability and food waste in kitchen. But you are taking it a bit further.
Yes, we are. Well, the model Gothenburg has, I did it before them. I have helped them develop that model. But anyway, the model has to do with that you have to make food waste, visualize it. So I work with the public service, I work with the public meals in school. And we have to show, we can't be ashamed of it. We have to show this is it. This is what happens. And when I work with the chefs in the kitchen, they have always, when they prepare the meal, the produce meal, they just do it, and they haven't really been reflecting over how much of the product I'm using. Let's say, before we started measure food waste, they could, if they had an apple with the brown spot, they threw away the apple. But since we started to measure it and make it visible, you could take the spot away, and suddenly you can use 95% of the product. So we have made food waste visualized it. So that's been a great help. But I must say, I think the Danes is into something. With all respect that you talk about, I think we have a golden opportunity. Since I work with the public meals, we work with the children, with the common future. We adults has a responsibility to show them respect, how to learn them to respect. And one way I do it, when I go out and talk to the pupils and the students about food waste, I talk about respect. And I always bring my chicken Chewy, but I couldn't bring her today to show respect. So
wow,
I brought
this is a surprise. Perfect.
So I brought an egg. And luckily, I must say, I have Chewy with me a couple of times, and every time she have laid an egg when I talk. And that is the most perfect way to talk about respect the food. Because in the end of the session, when everyone can take hold the egg, is it for real? And it's a bit of war. Not everyone have seen an egg produced in front of them. And when I get the egg back, I say, okay, is there a garbage bin somewhere? And they say, what can you? Well, it's just one egg. I can throw it, can't I? And then I have a fantastic discussion. It's an egg. She has produced it. It's just a symbol for all the food waste. So we talk about laws and banners. Of course, we have to do that. But we have to start with us. And we have to start with our children, the pupils in the school. We have to share and learn them respect. And luckily in Sweden, we have free meals in school. And we have the responsibility and the opportunity at the same time to learn them and show respect. That's a key for me in the future, how we will reduce the food waste. It comes to me. It begins with me. So hopefully, when we have lunch today, I'm going to watch you. So it's easy to talk about food waste, but I assume there will be no waste after this lunch.
Wow. Philip, what did you bring? Yeah, okay. You wish. We're just going to see. I think your microphone is listening a little bit. Can we get a hand mic instead and switch Anna's microphone off? I think that would be better. Thank you so much.
I would say I brought this banana here.
Thank you so much.
It's a colleague of mine that has painted it,
no,
and
it's
just an example of food waste, because actually in some complete value chains, as I'm sure you also know and many of you know, bananas actually stand for 60%. 60% of bananas are being thrown away in the worst value chains of bananas. So not only 40% as the general numbers. Yeah.
And I will bring you to our guests in the business industry restaurants to speak with adults.
This is perfect.
Yeah.
Speaking about networking. So, Filip, I know that you have developed a lot since you started, but I know that you also have the need, there is need to scale up. What do you need in order to do so?
I started Sopköket 8 years ago. And the first 7 years, we were producing red figures all the time, like the financial part didn't work. We lost money every month, but we survived thanks to fundings from governmental subsidies and stuff like that. The past year, we have finally found a business model that is financially sustainable, although being completely circular economy, which is actually kind of revolutionary, because 60% of the work we do, we don't earn any money on, which is going to supermarkets and rescue, sorting, also donating and teaching people from marginalized groups. But we are able to do this and still being a financially sustainable business. This is thanks to an innovative logistical way of using the freezer, basically in every part of our organization, more than normal restaurants do today, which we are proud of to do, because if you freeze things correctly, you don't actually notice that it has been frozen. And we are able to optimize our effectiveness of our staff with over 100%. So that we get these 60% to do all the good stuff in a sustainable way. So now we want to scale up for the first time in 8 years. What we do today with minimizing food waste 4 tons per month and donating and creating jobs, we want to do 10 times bigger in Stockholm. But for that to happen, we need to be better at collaborating. We have heard you mentioning before and others also today, which makes me happy that it's mentioned, that many times there are solutions in place, but they are not effective enough so that everyone donates there, but we're just transporting the problem to somewhere else where it's getting thrown. So we need to be more flexible in our collaborative agreements so that we make sure that all the food that everyone wants to be rescued, that it's actually taken care of. And more flexible collaborations and more collaborations so that we can all minimize more food waste. And we are ready to take on more. So if any of the giants here wants to approach me afterwards, we want to scale up this year.
Perfect. You know who to speak to. This question, I guess, is for both of you, because you both have, you work with schools. You have restaurants in schools and other different sports arenas and company restaurants, and they're different units. So when it comes to food waste, in your different units, can you see a pattern, like where there's most food waste, or how you need to work preventively differently because they're different units? I don't know who wants to jump on it first, but
well, our main food waste category is plate waste, I would say, and especially in schools. Yes, and
plate waste. So that's basically where a guest or a student has taken food on the plate and then throw it in the bin.
Yes. Yeah. So we try to talk to the students in different ways, using smaller plates, for instance, by sharing data, as I told you earlier, in the school restaurant. But I would say the most important thing is to prevent food waste, of course. And as our culinary director, Chris Dahl, puts it, and this is also, of course, in our business and industry restaurants, is that do we really want to enjoy a daily overabundance of lunch options varying with the days of the week? Do we really need all these options? And I also think about the retail business. I worked for one earlier. And you know, when you go and buy your bread or your olive or whatever, there's so many different options. Do we really need these options? It's really, I'm shocked, yeah. And I also want to add something. I visited a gymnasium last week, and I really got shocked because they thrown so much food waste. And even though they really love the food, I must say. So this food waste dilemma also really need to be included at home, discussed by the table at home. And also it needs to be integrated in education. And most of all, the students and the pupils need time to eat because they are also stressed.
This is a very good point. Do you want to comment too?
I agree with that last. They need to have time. What we see is that it comes to a behavior thing. When we serve our food at the elderly homes, the elderly has the tradition, they have the respect for their food. They don't want to throw away food, so they eat what they can. But the elderly homes is the one that has the heaviest food waste. It doesn't depend on the guest. It's because it's not the kitchen staffs that serve it. It's a line between. It happens. We don't have the control all the way. We have to distribute. We have to send it out, and that's what happens when it gets wasted. It's not the guest, but it also we see when. In school, we see when kids turn 10, 11, something happens. Up till 10, 11, it's okay to like the school food. It's okay to eat. And then suddenly you have to talk bad about the food in Bamba. you come in the school restaurants. It's not so. We have to work with the attitude and show them how to teach them respect for the food. So that's the.
Can I ask you another question?
Sure.
So, you work so you do so many initiatives on food waste in your school, in the restaurants that you have. Like, can you share maybe one of the most important decisions that you have made? When. To cut food waste, or an example, rather, it doesn't have to be the most important, like I put you on the spot, but an example where you've had concrete results of, all right, we did this and it actually cut food waste.
We went through the hygienic, the laws about the hygienic. What does it say? What can you save? What can't you save? That's a simple thing, but a lot of people think that, especially when it comes to our chefs, has it been out, you can't save it, you have to throw everything away automatically. So I think that's the most that we have educated and reminded our chefs that it's okay to keep things. It doesn't always have to go to the bin, but it's very easy to do it.
It is very easy to do it.
But they don't have to, so that's the biggest.
Thank you for sharing. Filip, I know that you've also been Sweden's representative in the Baltic region that they have created a manifesto which is called Great Taste Zero Waste. That was a bit of a hard thing to say there, but you were Sweden's representative. Can you tell us a bit? What was the initiatives and your learnings from collaborating?
Yeah, it was a Baltic collaboration sponsored by the Nordic Council of Ministers and EIT Food. And it's a free tool that we launched last week. If you go to greattastezerowast.eu, because the sector that we represent, HoReCa, like professional kitchens, stands for current numbers is 26% of the entire food waste is from our sector, current numbers, and we all need to help out. So, but it's not so easy if you don't know how to do it, how to minimize food waste, because it occurs in so many different situations in our professional environment. So if you go into greattastezerowast.eu, you get 10 guidelines. They are tailor-made for which kind of professional kitchen you have. If it's a catering food truck or whatever, these 10 guidelines are tailored for your business. And then there is also 2 Excel documents that we were part of, also contributing from Sopköket, that are also free to use. One for how to calculate amount of food to be made for amount of guests, so that you don't overcook or undercook the amount of food. and another one for measuring food waste in the kitchen so that you can track it better. Everything is free and open sourced.
That's great, and both for the people in the audience, but also watching digitally, it's free to use. Did you share? I know that you work a lot with the freezer, which you didn't do initially, but you've started to.
So yeah, my part of contributing was a lot around that, how we can use the freezer. The way we use the freezer at Sopköket, which has been the entire enablement for us being financially profitable, is that everything we rescue, we basically parboil it, vacuum pack, and freeze it directly, so that we build a food bank in our professional kitchen with rescued ingredients. We don't have to work against the clock anymore, which is super nice. We did it the first 7 years. It gets a lot of PTSD, as maybe you and a lot of others here knows. But we are free from that now, at least a lot. And then when we cook meals, we also cook meals maybe once per week instead of every day and in bigger batches. And then we vacuum pack and freeze again, so that the kitchen crew can do other good stuff the rest 4 days of the week. And when we have any catering event or anything else, we just build Lego from the freezer, go and pick what we need, and maybe do some fresh stuff like salads and stuff like that. But a lot of things you can't even imagine is possible to freeze, that is possible. Like, you can freeze so many things. So, yeah, we contributed to that mainly, and then also one of the Excel documents we contributed to.
That's great. Also, it's the 26th of April today. Oh, yes, you say.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Compass Group has started an initiative called Stop Food Waste Day, and it just happens to be today, which is quite coincidental.
So happy Stop Food Waste Day, everyone.
So that's great. Well, what's the purpose? What have you been doing to create awareness around your day?
Yeah, of course we want to raise awareness and also encourage both our guests and the food industry to reduce the amount of food waste, of course. And we also want to share our knowledge. We have quite many chefs around the world in Compass Group's group. And this time we have also published our first, I think it is, Stop Food Waste Day cookbook that you can find on the internet. And please download it. It contains recipes from around 30 of our campus countries from all over the world. And it really, really yummy things in there, I must say. Yeah. And in Compass Group Sweden, we also run our own campaign at Facebook right now called Unwaste Yourself. So please visit it.
Unwaste yourself.
Unwaste yourself.
All right. Well, there you go.
Yeah.
So we're going to wrap this panel up. I'm going to turn to Anna. What would be your final send off to this, to this group of people?
I'm turning to all children, and to the children through you. I mean, the more we teach our children about food and make them interest and make them want to try new things and different things and taste, and they will get to understand the value of food, where it comes from. And I think by that, we're planting the seed to take care of. It will be sustainable. We have to take care of ourselves, but we also have to take care of what brings in. So take care and respect the food, and don't forget the egg.
Don't forget the egg. No one is going to forget the egg after your presentation. And thank you so much to this panel. You can stay in the sofas actually while we talk. You can stay here. Thank you so much. You can stay here. Thank you. We are about shortly to go to lunch, but before we do, I'm going to invite another restaurateur up to the stage with me. Please welcome fantastic chef and co-founder to K-Märkt, Jens Dolk.
Thank you.
Hey.
Thank you.
Great. Hey, Jens.
Hey.
So last time I saw you, I was sitting in the audience, and you were serving me some yogurt that was about, I don't know, like, what, 1 year, or I don't know how old it was. It was really old.
It was actually filmjölk.
Okay.
It's like Swedish version of yogurt. And it was basically 1.5 year old. So it was just a small example of how silly those best before dates are and how we should really think about those things.
Have you found that, I mean, that you advocate for this, right? Have you felt like, have you seen a change since you started talking about it?
Yes, for sure. There's been a big change. It's super nice to have you here in this very strange building, Garnisonen. You know, it's been elected the by far most ugliest building in Sweden many times. But the really nice thing of having you here is because this building was planned to be part of big and important decisions. Because when it was planned during the 1960s, it was supposed to become the new Parliament House of Sweden. So very important decision was planned to be taken in this building, and now I hope those decisions will be taken by you guys today. So welcome to Garnisonen, first of all.
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
So
And who would have thought that we would have so many important people and talking about this very important subject 9 years ago when we started up our restaurant, which is just next door, where you will have lunch within 10 minutes. Because the whole reason why we started was we wanted to combine quality and volume. And the way we could do that was by actually, at the same time, coming up with a solution for sustainability. It was by serving surplus food. And that was 9 years ago. And at those 9 years ago, we were freaks, and it was very strange, and it was actually a bit frightened to go to have lunch with us. Today, 9 years later, we are heroes. Everybody loves us. So that's the change which have been going on for the last 9 years.
So, I mean, if you go here for lunch, I've done it many times. The buffet is amazing. The queue is going through the roof. Like, you have to queue for quite a long time to get there.
That's a problem.
That is a problem, but it shows that you're like obviously a very popular restaurant. Tell us a little bit more about. I mean, you spoke about K-Märkt and the philosophy behind it. Tell us a little bit more about your drive. Like, I mean, obviously you also have staff in there working with this topic every day. Like, what does your leadership mean to drive these guys to do that?
No, but I mean, K-Märkt is a professional restaurant. We operate as any restaurants, but we also have aim to be part of a change. And that aim is for the company, but hopefully also for the people working in our restaurant. And actually today, when the whole business is talking about that one of the biggest problems is to be able to source staff, we don't have that problem. And one of the solutions is because that people who come and work for us, they are part of a change. And everybody today, especially the younger generations, they don't just want to have a work. They want to be part of something. And they can be part of a new sustainable way of operating restaurant. Because the reason why we started was we wanted to combine volume and quality. And that's very hard if you have a lunch restaurant. Because the price in a lunch restaurant is decided by the customer. You can't just get the best ingredients, cook it, and price it and serve it. You have to serve it to the price the customer are willing to pay. And it's not the same during lunch as during dinner. And in Sweden, it's even harder because nobody's having wine for lunch either. So you only have those approximately 100 crowns to cook with. So when we were trying to solve that problem, we ended up with we have to buy bad ingredients to be able to sell it for 100 crowns. And then the whole solution was, but if we can buy ingredients from suppliers or producers or importers, which are surplus food, we can get a better price. And by doing that, we could combine quality and also getting rid of food waste, so to say. So that was the whole beginning of the restaurant. Today, we are using a couple of other also, not maybe so much today, but 9 years ago, they were strange methods. And then one of them is how we cook food. We cook food à la carte. Even if we do like 6 to 8 on the lunch every day, we are not cooking in the morning, keeping it at hold, and serving it during lunch. We are cooking à la carte, which means that we are not, in the end of the day, we don't have a dish left which we need to handle. We have an ingredients left which we can reuse the next day, and the reason we can reuse it is because we have no menu. I mean, the guests, and that's the number one thing, the guests never know what to have for lunch, and even the chefs, when they come to work in the morning, they don't know what to cook for lunch. And that's probably the most genius method we are using, because it means that we can use the resources which are there, and you will have an example of that during the lunch today. So that is two things. A third thing we do for sustainability is that we are serving the food the other way around. It's very simple, but very efficient. So you start with the greens, you end up with the proteins. So by doing that, we are, I used to say cheating, but now you have this fantastic word, nudging. We are nudging our guests every day into a more sustainable dish for themselves and for our world. So that's method number third. And the best thing is the last one. You will not experience today because you are a guest of this conference. So you will have a buffet and you can have as much as you want, but you can't have as much as you want because somebody will be watching you. Yeah? Exactly. But our normal guests, they don't do it that way. They pay their lunch by weight. So what we have actually done, we have put our sustainability work, we don't even have to do it ourselves. We have given it to our guests, and they are doing the sustainable work. Because nobody wants to pay for more than they actually eat. So we have zero food, plate waste in the restaurant. So that is the four. Not today maybe so strange, but 9 years ago they were strange. But today we have proven that they are working, and we are hoping that more people will follow us.
Well, you're getting a thumbs up from this one here.
Yes. Good,
perfect.
Good.
So, Jens, can you please share, or is it a secret now then, what we will be eating for lunch? Or do you even know, or how does it work?
No, I mean, the most common thing when a chefs pop on stage just before lunch is to actually know what to have for lunch. Yeah? But as I said, you never know at K-Märkt. Because it's not just that the chefs don't know when they come to work, or the guests don't know when they come to the restaurant. We don't know because we could change from hour to hour. Because we can source ingredients. We don't have to have ingredients for 600 people, even if we have 600 lunch. 100 is okay, because we can serve it to the first 100, and then we can change the dish. So basically, I don't know. I have a little idea, and it's based on avocado. And that's kind of contradictory, because 2 days ago, or 1 day ago, we got the possibility to buy 1 pallet of avocado. And you know, avocado is not the very most sustainable ingredients in the world, but that's what you're going to have for lunch today. And the reason is because that pallet of avocado was too perfect. It was because it would have been over-matured when it arrived there. So instead, you got it here today, and that was the base for the ideas. It's going to be some South American, Mexican theme on the buffet. There will be a choice of also greens, fish, meat, and also vegetarians. But what exactly, nobody knows.
So even if the avocado is not the most sustainable thing to eat, we will all be food savers for eating it, I guess, right?
And that's one of the main things for K-Märkt. It's always, if we have the choice of throwing it away or eating it, we always choose eating it, even if it's not the most sustainable ingredients in the world.
Well, this is great. You made me really hungry. I hope that you guys are hungry too. Thank you so much, Jens, for allowing us to taste your creativity here.
Can I just share 2 practical things? Yes. When you hit out here, you go to the right, and you will have your own section in the restaurant. You will have your own buffet, basically. There will be people there telling you how to do it, but that's just the way it's going to be done.
Yes, and I will take, before you leave, I'll take the opportunity, if we get the Menti slide up again, please. I think it's there. Please don't forget to send it in. And before you leave, please, I will take this opportunity as well to say a big thank you to Her Royal Highness, Princess Marie of Denmark, who will now leave the summit and travel back to Denmark. So on behalf of the summit, I would really like to say thank you for joining us today and for all the work. And once again, please all rise for Princess Marie. Thank you.